So I rewrote my entire Node.js server in Rust. Just like any other stations out there, I just rewrote it in Rust. And I started with a very simple middleware functions like validating a token and logging the request, and eventually ended up migrating my entire Node.js server in Rust. So in this video, I'll talk about why I choose Rust in first place and what it feels like to learn Rust if you are from a very web dev heavy background. Alright, so we'll also discuss is Rust really a viable option in 2026 to learn for web dev, and should you choose it or not. With that said, let's get into the video. And yeah, before that, if you are learning Rust, make sure you watch this video to the very end. You will learn a lot from it. And it's not a very coding heavy video. It's just an experience and my journey from Node.js to Rust. Alright, so the very first question is why Rust? I mean, why I choose to learn Rust and not any other language. So I mean, I'm very comfortable with Node.js. I have been working with TypeScript, JavaScript, and I have built full stack applications. So why learn something completely new and completely different? So here's the thing. See, for JavaScript and TypeScript, the ecosystem is amazing. The community is huge, and you can build literally anything. But I was not seeing this as an advantage because I wanted to know how things and programs work really under the hood. For example, take memory management. In Node.js, it just happens. You, as a developer, you really don't have to think about it. The same goes for the garbage collection. So why Rust? See, we as a developer are in a constant urge to write better and safer code. So for that, we have to know how programs work under the hood, and this thing was very bugging me. So I thought, like, what should I choose as a language to skill up, because I was already holding a job with JavaScript and TypeScript, using JavaScript and TypeScript, but I was just like very curious to know, like, how can I skill up as a programmer. So for that, I have to know every bits and pieces of how programs work, how memory is managed efficiently. So few points that made me choose Rust is like memory management. Now this is the big one. So Rust teaches you to think about memory in terms of lifetime and ownership concepts that are completely hidden in Node.js. And so you must be wondering now, like, why not C or C++, right? If you are working with C, you are kind of on your own. When you declare a memory, when you allocate a memory, you have to free it as well. Otherwise, you can end up on a very wrong side, right? And in C++ as well, on the modern one, we have the option of automatic memory management using some container classes and some smart pointers that are introduced in the modern versions of C++. So here is the question. So what is the difference between C++ and Rust when it comes to memory? So see, unlike C++, Rust, for the memory management, it completely take a different approach for it. For example, in C++, compiler won't really forces you to like use the safer techniques or RAI patterns and all. Compiler kind of allows you to write unsafe code, and you can end up crashing the thing, because compiler won't really forces you to write. It allows you to basically mix the safe and unsafe code. So it thinks that if you are doing things, you could be right. But Rust, on the other hand, it kind of enforces all the memory management rules like ownership and borrowing and lifetime rules on the compile time itself. So if compiler thinks that this program could end up in a bad state, it doesn't compile. So it enforces you to just implement all those rules, right? The second thing is type safety. So I have been working with TypeScript and it's good, right? Initially, it feels like very good, but you see that TypeScript is only a layer on top, right? So in runtime, you can end up in an undefined or null kind of things, right? But in Rust, if the compiler allows it, if you have strictly followed the ownership rules, borrowing rules, and lifetime rules, then if this thing like compiler allows it, that means you have covered everything, and there is no such thing like null and undefined in the production or in the runtime. Cool. So third thing was like growing adaptation. You see, many of the big tech giants like Microsoft, Amazon, Cloudflare, even Linux, we should be expecting a few pieces of Linux written in Rust. You see, all of these big tech giants are betting on Rust for their production environments, for their production applications. All right, now let's come to the next part. Why I migrated from Node.js to Rust. I didn't migrate it from Node.js to Rust just because I was hitting any performance bottlenecks or my Node.js server was slow. The thing is, I was learning Rust and I need something practical and more kind of real life thing so that I can solidify my understanding. It's better to implement already working things because I already have the requirement. I already know how this program should work and I can just compare it side by side. So on the one side, I will have my Node.js specific endpoint or any feature, and on the other hand, I can rewrite this thing completely on Rust and compare the implementation whether I'm getting the same results or not. All right, so this was the reason I started, and I have been in touch with many maintainers that I see on open source that are maintaining some really good projects, and I talked to them and they just suggested me one thing, that if you want to really learn Rust, start by implementation. I mean, you can just follow tutorials, you can just write any CLI, but those are just toy examples. You can clone kind of any big applications backend, but those are just a toy examples. So if you want to really understand or just get the just get the hands on Rust, so you really have to build something that is already in production. In my case, it was a Node.js server, and the main benefit was I have the requirement, I know what the projects need to do, and I just can compare the implementation side by side. So the goal was not to improve the performance of Node.js server, it was simply to learn by doing things. Alright, now let's talk about what it's like to be going from Node.js to Rust. So my Node.js server was built with Express and had about multiple endpoints. I used MySQL for database and handled functionalities like login, registration, or token validation, error and info logging, Apple ID logging, some of the CRUD APIs are there, and payment gateway integrations, and much more. So now, as you can see on your screen, it's a typical Node.js endpoint, and it's simple, clean, it gets the job done, and this is simplicity about Node.js that many developers love, right? You can just, in very few lines of code, you can just make the things done, right? And you can also see I'm using an npm package called Zod for checking the type of payload for some safety. And one thing to note here is error handling on this endpoint is completely optional. You can use the try catch or not. And here's the equivalent Rust code on the other side, you can see, and I'm using actix-web framework for my server. I will attach some links in the description if you want to check out and see how I have to specify the types here. I have to define the return type, I have to define the payload types, so how the payload should look like and how the return type should look like. And this strong type system makes it safer for implementing REST APIs. I don't have to add any vulnerable packages from npm or some third-party library just for type checking the payload. The Rust type system has it covered. Now let's see some benefits and drawbacks of Node.js and Rust. The both are better in their own places, but let's see them one by one. So what's better in Rust? Type safety is amazing now. It's in next level, as I already told in the previous example. Error handling, you can't ignore error handling. So in Node.js, error handling is optional, as I already said. You should catch error, but you really don't have to. So Rust result type forces you to handle errors every single time. The next one is performance surprises. Okay, so you have to remember one thing, as I already told, I didn't do it for performance, but I ran some benchmark out of curiosity. The response time, the total memory footprint was very low, though the compilation time is quite big. Not very big, but it's absolutely greater than the Node.js, but the memory footprint and the response time was very low than Node.js. Next, we have a concurrency model. As you can see, Node.js has event loop, which is great, but Rust with Tokyo gives you a true multi-threaded async runtime, and you can actually use all of your CPU cores efficiently. Alright, and the next one is deployment. I already have just mentioned on the performance section this thing, that Node.js needs runtime. So whenever you have to deploy a Node.js application, you have to set up the entire runtime over on the server, right? But Rust, you really don't have to. You just hit cargo build release and you only need a single file, no runtime, only one binary file to just run it, and you just have to ship it, no runtime. Alright, and the Docker image, if you are using Docker for that, it will heavily reduce, trust me. Now let's go to Node.js. It isn't bad, right? Let me just introduce some points that are really very beneficial in Node.js. Development speed, and trust me buddy, when I used to develop in Node.js, I hardly take a day to build an entire feature, but with Rust, dude, I can even take weeks to write things. And in Node.js, if I save a file and hit refresh, it just go, and while in Rust, it will take some time for compilation. The next, we move to the ecosystem, and again, there is no talk about it. Node.js has the vast ecosystem. The ecosystem is absolutely matured. Take this for an example. I have to integrate some payment gateway integration. So in Node.js, there are some official SDKs that works perfectly. You just integrate them with your code and they have, boom, all the options to do anything. right? But in Rust, either you are using an unofficial crate or just making every request manually, any file upload, email sending, jot validations. So they are all kind of easier in Node.js, but they take time in Rust. Alright, so these are some side-by-side comparison of benefits and drawbacks of each of the languages, right? So one thing I want to tell you here is you just don't have to rewrite everything because it's trending. But if you are curious and want to level up your skills in programming, give it a shot. Alright, so now if I get the chance to rewrite my another Node.js server in Rust, would I do it again? I will say yes. And should you do it? Well, it depends. So there are like some things that I want to discuss. So if you are doing this to learn and as a side project, in addition to the language that you are already working with and you are employed well, so go ahead, it's a good thing. And are you doing this to just add it in on your resume? It's again a good thing, but you have to be honest there. All right, that you don't have anything in production. Third is, are you really doing this for hype? Completely ignore that thing. Learn the things that are going to pay you well first, then only do this in addition to the other languages, right? And are you like having any performance bottlenecks in your current implementation? If yes, then start with the very basic thing first. Start to figure out what things are there that I can just improve by implementing that in Rust, right? So that's it. That is it for the today's video. And I hope you like the content, and if you liked it, just smash the like button, subscribe the channel for more Rust content, and let me know in the comments if you have similar journey of migrations. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.